Hello, Squirrel Squad. It's time for more of Joe's Boys. The second window framed a very picturesque group of three. Mr. March in an armchair. Sorry, my dentures are sliding. With Bess on a cushion at his feet, was listening to Dan, who leaning against a pillar, was talking with unusual animation. The old man was in shadow, but little Desdemona was looking up with the moonlight full upon her into young Othello's face, quite absorbed in the story he was telling so well. The gay drapery over Dan's shoulder, his dark coloring, and the gesture of his arm made the picture very striking, and both spectators enjoyed it with silent pleasure till Mrs. Joe said in a quick whisper, "I'm glad he's going away. He's too picturesque to have here among so many romantic girls. Afraid his grand, gloomy, and peculiar style will be too much for our simple maids. No danger, Dan is in the rough as yet, and always will be, I fancy. Though he is improving in many ways. How well Queenie looks in that soft light. Dear little Goldilocks looks well everywhere," and with a backward glance full of pride and fondness, Mrs. Joe went on. But that scene returned to her long afterward in her own prophetic words also. Number 3 was a tragical tableau at first sight, and Mr. Lorry stifled a laugh as he whispered the wounded knight, pointing to Tom with his head enveloped in a large handkerchief, as he knelt before Nan, who was extracting a thorn or splinter from the palm of his hand with great skill, to judge from the patient's blissful expression of countenance. "Do I hurt you?" she asked, turning the hand to the moonlight for a better view. "Not a bit. Dig away. I like it," answered Tom, regardless of his aching knees and the damage done to his best trousers. "I won't keep you long. Hours, if you please. Never so happy as here." Quite unmoved by this tender remark, Nan put on a pair of large round-eyed glasses, saying in a matter-of-fact tone, "Now I see it. Only a splinter, and there it is." "My hand is bleeding. Won't you bind it up?" asked Tom, wishing to prolong the situation. "Nonsense. Suck it. Only take care of it tomorrow if you dissect. Don't want any more blood poisoning. That was the only time you were kind to me. Wish I'd lost my arm. I wish you'd lost your head. It smells more like turpentine and kerosene than ever. Do take a run in the garden and air it." Feeling to betray themselves by laughter, the watchers went on, leaving the knight to rush away in despair, and the lady to bury her nose in the cup of tall lily for refreshment. Poor Tom, his fate is a hard one, and he's wasting his time. Do advise him to quit philandering and go to work, Joe. "I have, Teddy, often, but it will take some great shock to make that boy wise. I wait with interest to see what it will be. Bless me, what is all this?" She might well ask, for on a rustic stool stood Ted, trying to pose on one foot, with the other extended and both hands waving in the air. Josie, with several young mates, was watching his contortions with deep interest as they talked about little wings, gilded wire twisted, and a cunning skull cap. "This might be called Mercury trying to fly," said Mr. Lorry as they peeped through the lace curtains. "Bless the long legs of that boy. How does he expect to manage them?" "They are planning for the owl's dark marbles, and a nice muddle they will make of my gods and goddesses with no one to show them how," answered Mrs. Joe, enjoying this scene immensely. "Now he's got it. That's perfectly splendid. See how long you can keep it so," cried the girls, as Ted managed to maintain his equilibrium a moment by resting one toe on the trellis. Unfortunately, this brought all his weight on the other foot. The straw seat of the stool gave way, and the flying Mercury came down with a crash and shrieks of laughter from the girls. Being accustomed to ground and lofty tumbling, he quickly recovered himself and hopped gaily about with one leg through the stool as he improvised a classic jig. I have to have a little something to wet my whistle, and I know it should be water. Oh, goodness. Thanks for 4 nice little pictures. You have given me an idea, and I think sometime we will get up regular tableau of this sort, and march our company round a set of dissolving views, new and striking. I'll propose it to our manager and give you all the glory, said Mrs. Joe as they strolled towards the room whence came the clash of glass and china and glimpses of agitated black coats. Let us follow the example of our old friends and stroll about among the young people, eavesdropping, so gathering up various little threads to help in the weaving of the story. George and Dolly were at supper, and having served the ladies in their care, stood in a corner absorbing nourishment of all kinds with a vain attempt to conceal hearty appetites under an air of elegant indifference. Good spread, this. Lawrence does things in style. First-rate coffee, but no wine. That's a mistake, said Stuffy, who still deserved his name and was a stout youth with a heavy eye and bilious complexion. Bad for boys, he says. Jove, wish we could see us at some of our wines. Don't we just splice the main brace, as Emile says? Answered Dolly, the dandy, carefully spreading a napkin over the glossy expanse of shirt front, whereon a diamond stud shone like a lone star. His stutter was nearly outgrown, but he, as well as George, spoke in the tone of condescension which, with the blasé airs they assumed, made a very funny contrast to their youthful faces and foolish remarks. Good-hearted little fellows both, but top-heavy with the pride of being sophs and the freedom that college life and the freedom that college life gave them. Little Joe is getting to be a deuced pretty girl, isn't she? Said George with a long sigh of satisfaction as his first mouthful of ice went slowly down his throat. Well, fairish. The princess is rather more to my taste. I like 'em blonde and queenly and elegant, don't you know? Yes, Joe is too lively. Might as well dance with a grasshopper. I've tried her, and she's one too many for me. Miss Perry is a nice, easygoing girl. Go her for the German. Got her for the German. You'll never be a dancing man, too lazy. Now, I'll undertake to steer any girl and dance down any fellow you please. Dancing's my forte. And Dolly glanced from his trim feet to his flashing gem with the defiant air of a young turkey cock on parade. Miss Gray is looking for you, wants more grub. Just see if Miss Nelson's plate is empty. There's a good fellow. Can't eat ice in a hurry, and George remained in his safe corner while Dolly struggled through the crowd to do his duty, coming back in a fume with a splash of salad dressing on his coat cuff. Confound these country chaps, they go blundering round like so many door bugs and make a deuce of a mess. Better stick to books and not try to be society men. Can't do it. Beastly stain. Give it a rub and let me bolt a mouthful. I'm starved. Never saw girls eat such a lot. It proves that they ought not study so much. Never liked co-ed, growled Dolly, much ruffled in spirit. So they do. 'Tisn't ladylike. Ought to be satisfied with an ice and bit of cake and eat it prettily. Don't like to see a girl feed. We hard-working men need it, and by Jove, I mean to get some more of that meringue if it's not all gone. Here, waiter, bring along that dish over there and be lively, commanded Stuffy, poking a young man in a rather shabby dress suit who was passing with a tray of glasses. His order was obeyed promptly, but George's appetite was taken away the next moment by Dolly's exclaiming as he looked up from his damaged coat with a scandalized face. "You've put your foot in it now, old boy. That's Morton, Mr. Bear's crack man. Knows everything, no end of a dig, and bound to carry off the honors. You won't hear the last of it in a hurry," and Dolly laughed so heartily that a spoonful of ice flew upon the head of a lady sitting below him and got him into a scrape also. Leaving them to their despair, let us listen to the whispered chat of two girls comfortably seated in a recess waiting till their escorts were fed. "I do think the Lawrences give lovely parties. Don't you enjoy them?" asked the younger, looking about her with the eager air of one unused to this sort of pleasure. "Very much, only I never feel as if I was dressed right. My things seemed elegant at home, and I thought I'd be overdressed if anything, but I look countrified and dowdy here. No time or money to change now, even if I knew how to do it," answered the other, glancing anxiously at her bright pink silk gown trimmed with cheap lace. "You must get Mrs. Brooke to tell you how to fix your things. She was very kind to me. I had a green silk. It looked so cheap and horrid by the side of the nice dresses here. I felt regularly unhappy about it, and asked her how much a dress like one Mrs. Lawrence had would cost. That looked so simple and elegant I thought it wouldn't be costly, but it was India mull and some kind of lace. So, of course, I couldn't have it. Then Mrs. Brooke said, 'Get some muslin to cover the green silk, and wear hops or some white flowers instead of pink in your hair, and you will have a pretty suit. Isn't it lovely and becoming?' And Miss Burton surveyed herself with a girlish satisfaction, for a little taste had softened the harsh green, and bellhops became her red hair better than roses. Hot bells, not bellhop. Hop bells. It's sweet. I've been admiring it. I'll do mine so and ask about my purple one. Mrs. Brooke has helped me to get rid of my headaches, and Mary Clay's dyspepsia is all gone since she gave up coffee and hot bread. Mrs. Lawrence advised me to walk and run and use the gymnasium to cure my round shoulders and open my chest. And I'm a much better figure than I was. Did you know that Mr. Lawrence pays all Amelia Merrill's bills? Her father failed, and she was heartbroken at having to leave college, but that splendid man just stepped in and made it all right. Yes, and Professor Bear has several of the boys down at his house evenings to help them along, so they can keep up with the rest. And Mrs. Bear took care of Charles Mackey herself when he had fever last year. I do think they are the best and kindest people in the world." "So do I, and my time here will be the happiest and most useful years of my life." And both girls forgot their gowns and their suppers for a moment to look with grateful, affectionate eyes at the friends who tried to care for bodies and for souls as well as minds. Now come to a lively party supping on the stairs. Girls like foam at the top, and the substratum of youths below, where the heaviest particles always settle. Emil, who never sat if he could climb or perch, adorned the newel post. Tom, Nat, Demi, and Dan were camped on the steps, eating busily as their ladies were well served, and they had earned a moment's rest, which they enjoyed with their eyes fixed on the pleasing prospect above them. I'm so sorry the boys are going. It will be dreadfully dull without them. Now they have stopped teasing and are polite. I really enjoy them, said Nan, who felt unusually gracious tonight as Tom's mishap kept him from annoying her. And guys, I'm going to have to stop there. This constant dry mouth is getting to be a real drag. Oh, mercy me. Thank you for listening, and we'll see. I'll be reading on the banks of Plum Creek next. My car's still messed up. I think it's just a dead battery, but having to ask the neighbors come over and help me. I hate doing that. I know they don't mind. I'm sorry. I'm blabbing on. Be sweet and don't be ugly. I know you won't. Live at 5 today. See ya.